Welcome fathers who are looking to inspire their kids and become fearless. This is the Become a Fearless Father show and I'm your host, Klaas van Oosterhout. I'm a father of 2 boys, husband and entrepreneur. This show is created to teach you how to take control and enjoy the most difficult job you've ever faced, fatherhood. I'm going to keep it real and share real life experience. A heads up, there is no magic pill. You will have to put in the hours, sweat and tears to achieve victory. Are you ready to improve your health, wealth, relationships, knowledge and become the hero your family needs you to be? I know you are. So get your pen and paper ready and let's become fearless fathers together. I am very excited to talk today with Alex Van Houten. I would say actually, Alex, and we will get into that second because I'm very curious about your origin. But as you know, my name is Klaas van Oosterhout. I'm Dutch, so I would say Alex Van Houten. Are you so American? That's exactly how you pronounce it?
That's right.
Awesome, man. So we'll talk about that in a second. But first of all, man, glad you're on. Let's start with your story, who you are, what you're up to, etc., etc. Please share that with us.
Well, thanks for having me on, and hello to your audience. I'm really excited to hang out with Become a Fearless Father. I think I've got my camera a little zoomed here, so we're going to be real personal this morning.
Nice.
So, my background, it's an interesting one. You know, I've had quite the journey thus far. I went to school for psychology and chemical engineering, actually, if you can believe it.
Oh.
And my story starts even before that, though, in adolescence, where I grew up with a genetic disorder called Ehlers-Danlos. I didn't know I had this genetic disorder at the time, but what it does to you is it makes your tendons and ligaments, like your elbow should be really strong and powerful, like Kevlar, right?
Mm.
But tendons and ligaments produce less collagen than they should. And so what that means is they become way stretchier than they need to be. And so I would get on the monkey bars and my wrist would pop out of place, or I'd do push-ups and my shoulder would pop out of place. And I would run track and my hip would pop out of place. And I didn't know what was happening. The doctor said it was growing pains. So fast forward into the future, when I was diagnosed with this thing, everything made sense. But my whole life has been about not giving up on health and fitness, even though it's hard, even though I get injured, even though it's painful for me. And so that has been a huge part of my journey, is learning how to live with this genetic disorder in a way that doesn't hold me down and keeps me from doing the things that I love to do. And then when I became a father, I mean, you know this, man. When you become a father, everything changes, right? It's not about you anymore. You're not the star in your own movie anymore. And so I realized and found that when my son was born, my fitness had to stand for something other than just me. So it was about being able to play with him as I got older, and being able to be the dad who's engaged with him on the playground rather than stuck on my phone, you know, or whatever that looks like. And as I got into that, I found that there are some biological changes that happen to dad when the son is born, or when your daughter's born, and nobody talks about that. Everybody talks about mom, and that's fine. Mom, we appreciate you, but dad's got some stuff going on too. And so as I dove into that research, it blew my mind, and so I founded the Defining Dad Bod movement to talk to guys about how we can overcome our own biological changes. We live in a time where we can make a decision about what kind of dad we'd like to be. And I believe that has a lot to do with our own personal health and fitness. And so that's why I'm here today, and that's what I'm doing.
Nice, man. So quick question, because you mentioned when you were young, like ligaments will pop out. How's that now? How's that fitness helped you to overcome that, or can you overcome it? How's that going for you now?
Great question. You know, you can improve the ligament and tendon integrity of somebody with Ehlers-Danlos, and the research isn't very clear on this because it's a relatively rare disorder. You don't see it very often in the population, though it's expected that a lot of people are undiagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos. So you can improve the ligament and tendon integrity. However, it's generally that you're going to end up on some sort of pain medication. You know, my mom has Ehlers-Danlos, and without pain medication on a regular basis, her bones grind together and it hurts, and
Mhm.
she doesn't feel very motivated to do different things. And so I'm kind of my own guinea pig right now. I'm my own case study because I refuse to be to be addicted to pain medications. And so in general, everything's pretty good with me. Every once in a while I'll do something that I probably shouldn't have done, and I'll pay for it for a few days. And I mean, that's kind of what most people deal with, right? But I like to take that kind of thing to the extreme. So I'm working right now to get on the American Ninja Warrior show, which in my world would be, yes, in my world, that would be the like ultimate achievement of somebody who used to jump on the monkey bars and the wrist popped out of place. So we'll see how that goes. But right now I'm relatively pain free and don't have to deal with that terribly hard. But I have to be very careful while I'm training and very intelligent about how I train, or it will lead to injury much faster than a normal person.
Exactly. Wow, Ninja Warrior, man, that would be freaking awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Wish me luck.
Let us know, man. Yeah, absolutely, man. I watched that show a couple of times, and there's some people that are very, very inspiring, and your story will add to that. That would be, man, I'll be rooting for you. That would be amazing. Just finishing that would be like a victory on its own. So that's awesome, man. So best of luck with the trainings as well, because I've seen some people train and they're brutal, man. So
it's not easy.
head off to you, man. Head off to you. I'm glad you're doing this. So you mentioned already a little bit about your beginning. I'm just wondering, like, how did the birth of your son, how did that react? Were you already training really hard, or did you start training differently, or how did that? Because well, for me at least, when I had a son, things just changed, and all of a sudden you're using different muscles, and you get different aches, and So I'm just wondering, how did that go for you, and what kind of things that you did to adapt?
Yeah, great question. If you follow the movement, one of the things that we do in the movement is I have a podcast for Defining Dad Bod. So we're on iTunes and Stitcher, and then you can also find our stuff on the website. And a lot of those shows are inspired by what I went through when my son was first born.
Mm.
So I've been a trainer for 13 years. And so exercise, nutrition, lifestyle, that's old hat to me. It's habit. It's something that's built into the way that I do life. I've been exercising 5 to 7 days a week since I was 16 years old. So it's not hard to do that for me. However, my son was born, and I remember there's a number of things that happen. There's a number of hormonal changes that happen in a man, which we can get into in a bit. I remember about 2 months after he was born, I'm driving to work, right? And I an hour for work at the time. I was working probably about 40 to 60 hours a week. And I was driving to work, and I remember thinking, like, I'm starting to fall asleep at the wheel. Like, what's wrong with me? So I stop into a gas station. I get an energy drink and a brownie. Okay. I'm a personal trainer of 13 years. I don't stop at gas stations and get energy drinks and brownies. All right. I stop at a gas station and get an energy drink and a brownie, and I keep driving home. And I'm like, what the hell is wrong with me? Like, who am I? Who is this guy? And at that time, as far as exercise was concerned, I was so sleep deprived. I didn't feel like doing it. And when I did do exercise, I wasn't nearly as strong. It was really hard to go longer than 20 minutes. And even then, my performance was dismal. I used to be able to deadlift 425 pounds or so for multiple reps. And I was deadlifting maybe 225, and I'd finished, and I was like lightheaded, breathing hard. Like, what is wrong with me? So I actually have an entire show called How to Work Out While Sleep Deprived that dives into the research around what part sleep plays in exercise, and then also, kind of a practical how-to for new dads to deal with those sleep deprivation issues. But what I didn't know was that serotonin was plummeting, that testosterone was plummeting, that my cortisol was high, and that there are a number of changes that happen when a baby's born that you have to deal with before you can get back to your normal schedule. So the short answer to that is, there was a huge change in the way I had to exercise to deal with that sleep deprivation phase. And then after that, you have to be much more intentional with your schedule, because now your schedule is not just about you and your wife. It's about, your kiddo that isn't going anywhere.
Hey man, I hope you got all the information out of this that you were looking for. If so, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And if you hit the bell, then every time we come out with a new video, you will be informed. For now, thanks for listening, and I hope to see you soon. Yeah, exactly, man. I'm laughing because the fact that you mentioned like you sleep deprived and you're just really tired in the car. I actually had that happen. I think it was like 6 months, let's say 6-8 months ago, and we were sitting in Carrefour. It's like a big shop, like a Walmart, and they have like this area where you can play, right? And my wife goes, "Look, I forgot something. I gotta run back in. Let the kids play here, and you watch them." I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." She came back. I was asleep. I fell asleep. I passed out. But I'm not intentionally. I just didn't even realize it. I was watching the kids, and all of a sudden, whoop! And I was like, "Where are the kids?" I'm like, "They're right." Oh, they were playing behind. Man, it was a disaster. So I absolutely know what you mean.
Right.
So what did you start doing? What was your system to gain because now I'm really intrigued in knowing that. What did you do to regain your energy to make sure that those kind of situations, because driving, my situation was dangerous in the fact that, anything could have happened to my kids, but Spain is fairly safe. Mm-hmm. However, driving, that could lead to horrible accidents. So what did you do?
That's a great question. Part of the system that I use in Defining Dad Bod that I've created to train people is that we focus on organizing our hormones optimally so that they're working for us rather than against us. And that's one of the big things that shoots new dads in the foot, is that there are a lot of hormonal changes that happen to dad. There's nothing you can do about it. It's not your fault. There's a lot of hormonal changes that happen to dad to get you ready for a baby, and then to keep you from, shaking the baby when it's crying, that kind of thing. And that's important, because we wouldn't have made it far as a species if that wasn't what happened to us. Your 18-year-old hormonal self would not deal well with a crying newborn. Okay, so when you deal with these hormonal changes, there are ways that you can get them working for you rather than against you, right? So first, when you're sleep deprived, this is a completely different beast than the rest of your child's life, right? Because that's only a small portion of being a dad, but it's an important portion, right? So one of the major things that you can do while you're sleep deprived is, if you can plan ahead of time before baby's born, before you're moving into that area, to give yourself a little grace. I tell new dads, look, don't be too ambitious, man. You're not going to make major business moves right now. You're not going to make giant leaps in your career. You're going to take a nap over lunchtime. That's what you're going to do. All right. Because that's just real. You don't want to fall asleep at the wheel and leave your kids without a dad. All right. So this period of time is about getting rest when you can. Right. And then from a nutrition standpoint, we have to be careful of over caffeinating and over sugaring ourselves, which stinks because those hormones are dropped. Serotonin's dropped, for instance. And one of the ways you can get some serotonin is, I don't know if they have them over there, but you can eat a Reese cup. Nom, 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 right? Really, really high sugar, some good fats, bam. And not good fats like nutritious fats. They taste good, right? And they tell your brain, man, this is really good. You get a little spike in serotonin. And so you feel a little better. That's why you crave sweets when you're a new dad, in addition to the sleep deprivation. But if you can intelligently deal with that sweet craving, get some peanut butter and an apple, for instance, then what happens is you won't have that spike in blood sugar and then the drop. The drop is what will put you to sleep at the wheel. It's when your blood sugar plummets after eating a Reese cup, right? Yep. So knowing how to manipulate your hormonal system, that system's called insulin, by the way, to manipulate your hormonal system to work for you rather than against you, is a huge part of what we do. And I cover a lot of that on the show, which is that series in particular, if you're interested, is called Overcoming Obesity. It starts at part 1 and goes all the way to part 5, talking through the hormonal system. Nice. Man, this is so interesting. I never realized that. And in regards to the hormones,
do they change back after like X amount of time that your kids actually sleep in their own bed and they actually sleep and stay there?
That's a great question. The research is a little unclear on this. What we do know is that if you have children under the age of 4 in your house, when your youngest gets over age 4, then you can expect your testosterone and your serotonin to come back to relatively normal. Now you might be older than you used to be. Okay, so your testosterone will reflect, if you're 40 now, your testosterone will reflect a normal 40-year-old guy, right? Somewhere around there. But
Mm.
but if you have kids under 4, you're going to be below the average on serotonin, on testosterone, a little bit higher on the cortisol side of things. And it's unclear whether or not we can change that ourselves, without some sort of exogenous testosterone replacement therapy. So, for instance, knowing that if you have children under the age of 4, your testosterone is going to be lower than average, then hey, that's a problem from like a career perspective or a self-esteem perspective or I don't know, feeling sexy for your wife perspective, And so I coach guys to do things that are not going to drop your testosterone and to coach them to do things that are going to raise it, right? So, for instance, creatine supplementation, 3 to 5 grams per day can slightly elevate your testosterone level. Getting rid of alcohol, or maybe having alcohol only 1 day per week in your regimen, that can actually elevate your testosterone. A lot of guys don't know this, but they've done studies where if 5% of your calories, they do this on rats, because you can't do this to guys. You can't kill guys and then pull their testicles out of their body. Like, that's not good for, that's, that won't work on humans, right? But if you feed rats 5% of their total calories from alcohol, which for me and you is about 2 drinks a day.
That's,
6 weeks later, their testicles have shrunk to half the size. That's
wow.
scary, isn't it? Like 2 drinks a day, half the size testicles. I don't know about you, but that's a problem. Like that's that's not just about the size matters thing. That's about the testosterone that you could lose if you inhibit your gonadal function that way. And then the last thing that's a huge benefit to testosterone is compound weight training. So things like squats, deadlifts, pull-ups, bench press, handstand push-ups, whatever you find floats your boat in that respect. 20 to 30 minutes, 4 days per week has a huge effect on testosterone. And so just because you have children under the age of 4 doesn't mean you have to be relegated to a very low testosterone version of yourself. There are many things that we can control on a daily basis that make the most out of the hormonal systems that we do have while our children are young.
Exactly, nice. Without getting that urge to shake our kids and throw them out the window, right?
Don't get me
Excellent.
wrong, I still get irritated, but it's not nearly what I would have been as a young man, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I actually, I'm trying to see if maybe you do that as well, what your opinion is on that. But I used to be, and I still am sometimes, but I'm really better with my kids and my close surroundings. I'm very impatient, or I used to be very impatient, to the point that you're building a IKEA closet, it doesn't work, and before you know, the whole IKEA closet is broken in pieces. Kind of impatience. And I actually noticed, okay, so besides working out, which really helps dealing with that, I also started meditating and deep breathing. That helped me out a lot. Is that something that you do? Is it something that's integrated in your program as well? Or what's your philosophy on that?
Yeah, I integrate both meditation and I would call like a base building cardio session or yoga.
Mm-hmm.
I would include that in the same realm. There's a whole aspect of training or physical exercise, for instance, or the discipline, I would say, of fitness that has very little to do with how much weight you lift or what you can or can't do. It has a lot to do with your cognitive control of the processes you can control. So a lot of that's rooted in breathing. So breath training, there's a lot of good research on this. The ability, you could do it right now. We're talking right now, we're engaged in conversation. We're not thinking about our breath, right? So if we do what's called a box breath, which is you breathe in 4 seconds, you hold it, you release for 4 seconds, and then you hold that, and then you repeat that. Then you actually increase the alpha waves in your brain, your executive functions of your brain, which for a lot of people, that's a mumbo jumbo thing to say. That means you have more control over yourself and your surroundings consciously. Whereas, you know, we're little men riding an elephant, right? And the elephant's the limbic in the brain stem, you know, and if it's been a long day and maybe we didn't sleep as much as we should, and maybe we had a little too much caffeine and we're kind of jittery, and the kids are bouncing off the walls and we're like, just clean your damn room. Like that is a deep cognitive process. But if we're focused, if we have the executive function to say, hey, calm down, Dad. Like they're 3. Like, hey guys, I asked you to clean this room once. Let Daddy help you. You know, that's a different you know, and that can come about by just controlling your breathing. So while we're here, let's do it. Let's do a 4 count box breath. Will you do that with me, Klaas?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Here we go. Coming in. Ready? 4 seconds. Hold. And out. Hold. Don't you feel better?
Yeah, it's amazing, man.
Anybody else watching, don't you feel better? It doesn't do anything necessarily magical, except there are very few processes in our body that are both subconscious and conscious. And when you meditate, you control your breathing. When you exercise and you're conscious about it, you can control your breathing. And any time in the day, you can control your breathing. And it takes the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system and puts them together. Puts you back under your own control. So when we say take a deep breath, it helps. It really helps. And you can teach your kids this too. You know, what, a 4-year-old has a tantrum? Rah, hey buddy, let's take a deep breath together. Now what's the problem? that can be really helpful.
Awesome, man. I'm so glad, because I do breathing exercises, but never got it into as deep as you just explained what the benefits are. It just makes me feel good. I actually taught my 5-year-old, which I'm happy that I did. He fell, was it the day before yesterday, really hard, and he scathed his lip and he busted his lip inside his mouth and outside. Yeah. And he started crying, and of course he was dirty. And before I wanted to clean him up, I just wanted to make sure that he was calm. And because I already worked with him before and taken moments to do exactly what you just said, he calmed down really quick, and then I cleaned him up, and all the parents were looking at him like, wow, you're a real champ. Wow, this is amazing. My kid would go absolutely nuts. I'm like, yeah, exactly, because you let him go. Now you don't teach him what will help him actually to deal with this. So you can, because it's so hard if they go completely nuts and you want to clean them and everything. So I'm glad you shared this, and I now for me, it's an even bigger plus side, and going to be more focused on doing these kind of things. Man, thanks a lot. I hope people are really taking notes like I am. It's important. That's the way we learn and remember stuff. So I appreciate that. And you mentioned meditation as well. Now, in regards to meditation, do you do like a freestyle meditation, or do you do how do you call that? Where you sit and you're listening to somebody running you through a meditation style?
That's a good question. I've done a little bit of everything in my time in the fitness industry, and I've experimented to see what works best for me. One of the thing that does not work well for me is to sit all alone in a dark room, try to control my breathing and direct my mind myself. Doesn't work very well. I'm the poster child for attention deficit hyperactive disorder. I'm going to think about that for a little bit. I'm going to think about that for a little bit. I'm going to think about that for a little bit. That actually is enhanced better for me if I want to do that style of meditation by journaling, writing to help me focus in on a particular point. So a meditative exercise for me is I have a Word document on my computer named after my wife, myself, my child, and then I have a little guy on the way. We're excited. March 2nd.
Congrats. Awesome.
Hopefully I learned something the first time around.
That's great.
So I actually write to them I will think for my son, maybe I was a really good dad today and I have a memory I want to share with him. So I will spend 10 minutes, kind of meditating on that and thinking about how I want to tell him about that and what I hope he knows about that sometime later when, he's older and smarter enough to deal with this. Or maybe I'm really struggling with some business decisions I have to make or some familial decisions I have to make. I'll open that Word document to myself and journal that. It's kind of a prayerful meditative exercise. I will not get relief from sitting in a room somewhere for 10 minutes and just think, I can't do it. It won't work. And then the other thing that's really meditative for me is I call it base building cardio a lot of times. And that's the really low intensity stuff. Maybe it's walking for some people from a conditioning perspective. Maybe it's cycling, maybe it's a light jog, whatever it is. I find that meditative with some good music. And there's actually studies that show your cognitive function increases when you're about 50 to 60% of your maximal output. So, if I go sprinting, I can run about 13, maybe 14 miles an hour for a short period of time. So 50% of my output is around that 6 mile an hour mark. So if I'm chilling right there with some music, it's something I could hold for 30 minutes to an hour with no problems. I'm barely like, no big deal. I'm not dying. It's not hard exercise. It's just kind of me time. Right. And that can be a meditative exercise for me as well. I've also done some guided meditation stuff. And for many of my clients who are interested in getting into, the meditation stuff, I recommend apps like Headspace, which can really help. And then on YouTube, Dr. Spinoza has a fantastic line of videos where he, I think I'm saying his name right, Dr. Spinoza. It has a fantastic line of videos where he does several guided meditations. They're anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. And then I guess the last thing I didn't even speak about is there are some places where you can find group meditation, where you can get a group of people together. And it's interestingly powerful when you have a group of people together doing a guided meditation together. So we're all listening to Dr. Spinoza walk through this, and then we'll talk about our experience afterward. Makes you much more focused when other people are around and you can't be jittery and get up and give up on it. So that can be helpful as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, that sounds a lot like what I hear very often, that an environment is so important for the different things you're trying to achieve. So talking about that, how do you go about creating your environments to make sure that, you get the things done or you feel amazing, or how do you go about creating that?
That's a good question. I guess it depends on what you're trying to get done. So I have a different environment for my workspace than I do from my workout space. And I have a different environment for my workout space than I do for playing with Gabriel. That's different. So I guess the most important thing is, for me, and not everybody's like this, but I know in my mind it really matters. I have partitioned off places that are for specific things. So if I want to go for a run to achieve some sort of athletic goal, that's a different route than if I want to go for a run to think about an important decision I need to make and to make peace with that, right? Similarly, if I want to write in a meditative fashion, I'm not going to go sit on the couch in the living room where all these distractions can be. I'm going to find a quiet place. Sometimes my office is a quiet place. I work out of home. Sometimes it's not. So, my wife understands if I say, hey, honey, I'm going to take an hour. I'm going to go to the local coffee shop. I'm going to, write for a bit. And then, hey, guys out there, if she gives you an hour, give her an hour too. Like, this is a mutual effort here. So controlling your space like that and setting an intention around how you're going to use your space is a big part of how I practice things in a day, especially in the world of technology. If you work out of the home, you can take work with you wherever you go. And it's important to be like, no, if I'm in this room, then I'm working. When I'm not in this room, I'm playing with Gabriel, or whatever that looks like. That way, you don't bleed the lines together and you're not always working, or you're not never taking your work seriously, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as you can see, I have my setup at the moment in the living room. but that hardly happens. It's just at the moment it's cold here and the heating doesn't work in my office. Plus, my parents were here to visit us and they slept in the office, so I just installed myself here, which actually benefits me because what you just mentioned is so true. As entrepreneur dads, we have a very strong feeling of we want to make a huge impact in this world and help as many people out there as we can, which is great, of course, but at the same time, it's danger. What you just mentioned is that we forget that we also have people close to us, and we need to spend time with them as well. And it's so easy to just keep working and working, passion, and you keep going. Now I have no choice. I mean, if they're here, then I can't focus anyway, so I might as well. And it helped me because I started to notice going more and more, and I'm working on a coaching program, or I'm actually running a coaching program at the moment. So that's, it works, but it's definitely a good message for all the fathers out there, especially the entrepreneur dads. It's like, make sure that you set off the different environments and know exactly where to be at what time. Perfect, man. Mm. So you just mentioned like you take an hour and then you give an hour back to your wife. One of the things that I always find interesting knowing from fathers out there is, how do you go about connecting with your wife, because it's so difficult as soon as the little one comes to spend time alone or to make sure that she still feels as special as she was before, because now you got to divide your attention amongst more and you're going to have two soon, so that's going to be even more. So how do you go about creating this?
That's a good question. I think there's some practical application that I can talk about what we do in our lives, and we're by no means perfect. We're two imperfect people trying to get better like everybody else. But at the core of it, it really helps to understand how you view your relationship. And I don't know, maybe it's my background in physics and engineering or whatever, but I tend to think of a relationship in terms of two stars, right? So I've been in bad relationships in my life. I was actually married before my wife, and I guess it was my practice marriage. I hate that that's what we had to go through to figure it out. But there are people who are, let's say you're a star. Let's say there's a light inside of you that's a star, and there's a lot of religious implications behind that as well. But let's just say there's a light in you that's a star, right? There are some people that when they're in relationship with another person, it's like they're a black hole and they're sucking all the energy from the star, right? And so the universe is much dimmer because these two people are trying to get closer together. That's not good. That's a bad thing, right? Mm-hmm. Now, what I think and what my wife also believes is that we both have a light, and that the closer we get together, the brighter the universe is because of it, right? Because that happens as well too. Black holes kill stars, but two stars can become a much brighter thing, right? And so when we look at our house being founded on our relationship, and there's a lot of biology behind that as well. Our child's going to learn affection from how I'm affectionate to my wife. Even in the womb, how stressed out she feels can affect the circadian rhythm of the baby and the neural development of the baby before it's even here, So it's important that she's not always tense and feeling like she can't share her thoughts, or like our house isn't going in the direction she'd like it to, and vice versa, right? So if we look at our entire home and our relationship as the foundation, the bright shining star, so to speak, then we also see every day as an opportunity to get a little closer and to shine a little brighter and to get on the same page, and that sounds really romantic and cute, but sometimes it's just as simple as making sure that we plan the grocery list together so that one of us doesn't always feel like I'm the one who does the shopping and I'm the one who does the cooking and I wish they would just do X, So as far as practical ways to live that out, one of the things that we find is extremely helpful and important is an early bedtime for the kid. And it's good for him, but that also gives us a couple hours where we're not like responsible to be parents right now. We can be us if that's what we need to be. We can be individuals if that's what we need to be. And that's really important. We also believe that both of us need to be pursuing self-betterment as individuals, which means we need to be given time to do so. And so when you don't have somebody around to give you that time, it's on you, man. Like, I need to take the step to say, hey, you've been kicking butt and taking names lately. Let me give you an afternoon. Like, we can go somewhere, we can stay here, and you can go somewhere. It doesn't matter. Let me give you an afternoon. And so I planned some time with my son to do something cool together with Dad. Yesterday I don't know if it was cool. He thought it was pretty cool. 3-year-olds are really easy to please if you just give them attention, time, and energy, right? So I gave him a shovel, and I had a shovel, and we buried a French drain out behind our yard together. And we had a grand old time, man. We listened to his favorite show right now is the old school Power Rangers. You
Okay.
know Power Rangers, right?
Yeah.
And we all had a crush on Kimberly, the pink one. Anyway, so we're listening. I've got my phone propped up on a tree, and we're listening to Go Power Rangers while we're like shoveling, and we're like dancing in the backyard and having random battles with sticks and stuff. And like my wife, I don't know, I was like, go away, get out of here, go go do whatever you need to do to feel good, and that's 3 or 4 hours where she has that, and she'll do the same thing for me. In reciprocity, and that's important, because if one of you becomes a black hole, you can't get closer and shine brighter. If one of you becomes a black hole because you're not pouring into yourself and you're not becoming better and you're not, you feel like you're off the path that you're supposed to be in life, then you start drawing from the other person and looking for the other person to fill your emotional needs and stuff. And that's not something you want to pass on to your kids. You don't want your kids feeling like, I wish everybody would fill my cup because I don't know how, right? We have to teach them that.
Exactly. I love your analogy, and it's a very powerful story. So I appreciate you sharing this. I forgot to ask you a question. I should have done that before we dove more deeply into making connections with my wife and our kids. One of the things, man, because I see your posts and stuff like that, and you look freaking fit as hell. And there are a lot of fathers out there, and I've seen fathers in groups as well that just don't pay attention to being fit. I see it a lot when I walk around here, and I can understand as well, even if there's fathers listening right now that don't work out, don't eat healthy, not in shape, they're listening, they're seeing you just showed a little bit of your biceps, and they're like, whoa, yeah, I can never do that, and then they get immediately demotivated before they even start. Can you explain a little bit about maybe your humble beginnings, or maybe explain what's a process or a system for them to motivate themselves to start, and what's the best way to start? Because I always felt in the same trap, is that I see it and I'm like, oh yeah, I got to do this, and then I pick up weights and I go bam bam bam, and then 3 days later I'm like, oh, and then I don't do anything again for 3 months. So what's the system? How can that start in a way that they set up a habit, as you mentioned before, so they continuously do this, and this doesn't happen overnight, right? So
yeah, right.
How does that work?
Great question. I think first, if we are honest about the health and fitness industry, then you can Google 12-week program to 6-pack abs or better biceps in 4 workouts or whatever. It's a very fatty, FADDY. I just made that word up. Very fatty industry where everybody's selling some pretty picture of what you can be, right? If we're really honest with ourselves and we take a more inward and personalized approach, I would recommend every single dad out there to sit on the edge of your bed and ask yourself, what can I change that I'm willing to change that would make me a healthier, fitter dad? And just sit there, because in 3 minutes, I promise you'll generate a list of 20 things that you shouldn't be eating, or that you should be exercising, you should be doing X, Y, Z, and that you need to be doing that, and you're just not doing it. And then go do at least one of those things, and you'll be, biceps might not be here yet, but you'll get there. And my biceps aren't that big, by the way. Some people do some crazy stuff, but I say that because my journey is I started this back when I was a young kid trying to get over my joints, popping out of place. And I was not a big kid, I'm not really a big guy now. I'm 5'9", about 170. And, back in college, I was maybe 5'8", and a heavy wind could blow me over. I was probably 120, somewhere in there. So, this has been a journey. I've been the smaller stick version of myself. And hey, I like to train for marathons, so maybe that was good for me, But for a guy who's thinking like, how do I get started? Where do I get started? If you're not lifting weights right now, you need to be doing it at least 2 days a week for 20 minutes. You need to be doing at least 2 days a week for 20 minutes. And you know what? There's perfect ways to do it. That's what you learn in personal training. If you don't know what you're doing, just do something that's not going to get you injured. If you don't know how to start, reach out. I'll help you. I'll help you for free for a couple of weeks. I'll even send you some workouts you can get done with some videos to help you out. Like, that really matters, start doing that 2 days a week, because as guys, we need it for our testosterone. We need it for our growth hormone. We need it for our cerebellum. There's a part of your brain that rewires itself positively that can affect every other part of your brain if you're lifting weights regularly. So at least 2 days a week for 20 minutes can make a big difference. And then you need to find some sort of cardiovascular exercise that you'll stick with. Guys are always asking, like, what's the best form of cardio? Like, which one burns the most calories? Which one's going to help me get rid of my gut? And my answer always is the same. Whichever one you will always do because you like it. Because that matters. If you don't like it, you're not going to do it, no matter how good it is for you, right? So swimming, cycling, it's winter here in the States. I hate running in the cold. So I play Dance Dance Revolution. Do you know what that is? It's a little pad on the ground.
Okay.
4 arrows, and they have crazy music, and you have to try to keep up with it,
All right. Yeah.
I play that for cardio because I don't like running in the cold. and not that that's the best version of cardio. It's just better than nothing. And so if you're a guy not doing anything right now, you need 2 days a week of weight training. And I would say at least 2 days a week of 20 minutes of cardiovascular exercise. Start with that. And who knows where it goes. But the most important thing is that next year, you're still doing it. Then we can build on that. We need to take a long-term vision of this whole thing. And the last thing I'll say about this is, if we take a long-term vision of this, if we take a long-term view of being consistent with our exercise, then we won't teach our kids. We won't teach our kids to follow in the fads of the industry. You don't want your 8-year-old boy going, I wish I had bigger arms. Like, I'm going to do this thing for a week and see what happens. Man, my arms aren't bigger yet. Yeah, things don't come instantly, bud. If you really want something, you have to be dedicated to it. If you really want something, you have to stick with it, And so that's something that I hope to pass on to my kid. And I hope that resonates with other guys as well.
Exactly. That was great. Thanks. I appreciate that. That's one of the problems that I always have, man. You go online and you're trying to find stuff, and it's always the most ripped guys, and you're just like, man, yeah. And then you start the programs, and it's like, still don't look like you, dude, even though you promised it. And then you get disheartened and you let it go. I like my kettlebell at the moment because I don't, this is not America. So in America, I know you have the possibility to go to the gym really early. I don't have the possibility at the moment to have a gym at home. And here, the gyms don't open early, so I got to make it work at home as much as I can. And at the moment, my kettlebell, I got it right here. My kettlebell works out because, it's something small that I can keep in the house and I do tons of exercise with. So I bought it on that. I'm pretty consistent at the moment. Plus, I do it in my morning routine, which I want to talk to you about in a second. And this week, especially, my kids are waking up really early. They're waking up at 5:45, and even this morning he was up at 5:30. And he sits on the couch eating his breakfast while I'm swinging that thing around, which I think is amazing because, I believe at least he's watching me do something that will hopefully stick with him, and he will start exercising as well. But that besides the point, talking about morning routine, man, how does your morning routine look like? Is that something you got structured, or is it something more like you do day by day? How do you work that around?
That's a great question. We just moved. So we moved from Colorado Springs to Arkansas. And I changed a few things up. When you have a transition like that, it's a great opportunity to try a few new things on for size, right? So I'll give you what my morning routine looks like generally, and then some of the new things that I'm trying to work into it. Right. So
Awesome.
I love coffee. Coffee is really important to me. So my morning routine usually consists of I wake up really early, so somewhere around 4:30 or 5 most mornings. I'm very early, and I get my coffee, and then I spend about 10 to 15 minutes setting my intention for the day.
Mm.
So if I have some writing to do, if I have some big business stuff going on, whatever that is, I take the time to do that. And I say that intentionally because it's really easy to wake up first thing and start checking your phone, social media messages and all that stuff. Don't do that, or at least I don't do that. I have to steer away from that and spend some time setting some intentions. So old school notebook, pen and paper, like what is it that I want for this day, and it also gives me some time. I don't know about you, but I have weird dreams, so it helps me to transition from the strange subconscious world to the world of the conscious, and really get in touch with what it is that I'm hoping to get done today. And then after I set my intention there, I go do it. If today's intention is I want to make some strides with regard to physical fitness, a lot of times I will go for a light jog or a walk outside before I even eat food. I like to do something light before eating. It's a great time for fat oxidation, sets you up for stable blood sugar the rest of the day, and I get that done. If today one of the intentions was to make some strides in my weight training, then I hit the weights before getting into the work day and whatnot, and make sure that goes down. And then if it is about some business stuff, I hit the ground running. And one thing I do know about myself is the time from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. is my most productive time of the day. So whatever it is that really needs to happen, I call it eating the frog. The thing that you didn't want to do, the thing that you could put off for another couple days, but it's really important. That's what I do from the hours of 5 to 7. And that's really important. And then I take a step back at about 7. I get to hang out with you today. That was the time frame here. But I take a step back at about 7, look at the work I've done, make sure that I accomplish what I set out to, and then I set the tone for the rest of the day. So these are the secondary and tertiary things that need to happen. And then I'm done with work usually about lunchtime. And that's the way I like to have it. Gabriel's usually waking up from his nap a little after lunch, and then the rest of the day is family time. And I've worked really hard to make it that way, to make sure that everything that needed to happen by now is taken care of. I'm taken care of, work's taken care of, house is taken care of. I can really sink my teeth into, my claws into being present with Gabriel, my wife.
Nice, man. Nice. Yeah. That's my vision. That's where I want to go. But it's awesome that you share that and what you mentioned. You work really hard to achieving that, and I'm assuming you had that vision to go there. One of the things, man, you just mentioned you moved, and of course you got a young kid. He's 3 years old. I'm assuming he had friends where you used to live. How did you go about explaining to him, hey, we're going to move? And how did you go about, you going right now through the transition of him being in a new place? How is that all going? And do you got like a system or something? Because I can assume that a lot of parents get really stressed out thinking, okay, we want to move or we have to move. What about our child, right?
Yeah. I'm embarrassed to say that I managed the moving thing and terribly for the first couple months that we were in the process of doing it. The move itself and the work in the house and all that stuff, that was going great. I remember one night, it was about a month before we moved, I'm sitting with my wife and I'm like, man, like he's just on another level today. Like, what's his problem? And we're sitting there talking about it. And I was thinking, like, we're talking about this thing. We were good about communicating with him. My son's an extreme extrovert. Nothing goes unsaid in our house. Everything has to be out in the open. maybe 5 or 6 times. He wants to talk it out. So that's good. But, we talked about this. We prepped him, helped him understand we're moving to Arkansas. This is why we're moving. Here are the people who will be there. No, there are no mountains in Arkansas. Like we're getting him, prepared for and understanding what that looks like. But what I didn't do as a dad is understand emotionally that there's going to be a lot of stress for him, packing boxes and putting some of his favorite toys away and talking about the move and stuff. He has no concept, no schema of what this looks like in his life, so there's going to be some stress in him, and that kind of anxiety and that stress is going to play itself out for a 3-year-old. That means, you come out of your office and he's never done this in his life, but he's decided to empty the entire contents of your freezer out onto the kitchen floor. Like, why? What are you doing? Like, like, I'll pick it up, Dad. Like, okay, but you've never done this before. Like, what are you doing? And so, it took me, I'm embarrassed to say, it took me at least 3 or 4 weeks of that process before I was like, oh, like he's got a lot of stress. He's under too. And we need to talk about this like feeling of stress and how we manage it and how we deal with that, So it was a teaching opportunity for me as a dad. As far as the move itself is concerned, open lines of communication, making sure that I think oftentimes we expect our kids just to go along with things like, hey, it's time for a nap. Hey, it's time to go to school. Hey, and so it helps to give them a countdown and an understanding of what the week looks like. Hey, in a few minutes, we're going to pack these things up. I could use your help in the other room. Or, this week we're going to Gigi's house on Wednesday and we have church on Sunday, and like, let's look at what the week looks like together. So he knows what to expect. Hey, Dada is behind on work and he's going to have to work, a couple afternoons. And so I won't be able to fight lightsabers in the backyard, helping him to manage his expectations has been a really important part of this. And then, he had his friends, as you mentioned, had his friends and stuff back in Colorado, and the routine that we had. It's important to make him a part of building a new routine, which is, and being conscious about that, because, we used to go to a particular playground and play there, and that playground's not here anymore. So where should we go to play, and what days should we do that? And gymnastics and playing with cousins and all of the things that he's used to. How do we transition him into a new routine? And I think I'm an Army brat. I moved a lot as a kid. I don't remember necessarily. I don't remember anybody guiding me through the process of that for all of the moves. And I think I guess I made it. I did all right, but being intentional about that as a parent has been a learning experience through this process. And I think I would be much less good at it if I wasn't tapped into, my wife's mind with regard to our kid. I'm not very emotionally intelligent in that sense. I've worked hard in my life to get in touch with my feelings. I have a very hard time understanding his sometimes, but my wife's very good at it. And as long as I'm talking to her about it, we can problem solve this stuff together. So that was a big jumbled answer, but we're working to help him establish a new routine here, and being very communicative about our expectations, as well as trying to tap into how he feels about those things too.
Exactly. Awesome. Yeah, it might be a little all over the place, but still there was a lot of little golden nuggets to share with everybody. I liked also that you mentioned, as men in general, you're not very well. It's already difficult to be in touch with our own feelings, let alone understand the emotions and our feelings of our kids. I know I sometimes have difficulty with it. Our 5-year-old lately is just crying a lot, and I have difficulty with dealing with that. But then my wife is really good at that. And that also, now you're saying that, it linked all of a sudden like star, and yeah, one star shines in different areas. So that's brilliant. So I started thinking of the analogy. So I'm going to keep that one. Thanks for that, man. I really appreciate that. So one of the things I want to talk to you about as well, because you were talking about the stars, man, but each star as well has their own ego, right? How do you go about dealing? I recently had my ego a little dinged by my wife, and she just said the truth, and it actually was absolutely spot on. She was right. And I'm sure it happened to you as well. So I'm just wondering, like, how do you go about dealing when your ego gets touched to make sure that, you know, everything stays intact and stays peaceful, so to say? You know, has it happened to you, and how do you go about making sure that everything stays nice and peaceful and smooth?
Well, absolutely. I mean, in any relationship, I'm of the mind that if you don't butt heads, you're missing out. Like if you're not having conversations that are hard, if you're not disagreeing, it's probably not really a relationship, to be honest.
Mhm.
Like you're saving up for the big fight. And that I've been privy to that, and even in my own relationship with my wife, it's very good. But there have been times where we haven't butt heads when we probably should, and it always comes up in the future. You know, it always comes to a head at some point, right? So yeah, I mean, in any healthy relationship, you got one imperfect person and another imperfect person who's like, you know what, I'm stuck to you. I'm making a commitment to be stuck to you, and we're gonna figure this life out together. And hopefully, between the two of us, we're one whole human being. You know, maybe we can figure this out well enough to be, you know, one good person. And so in that process, you know, I'm going to have my opinions and perspectives, and she's going to have her opinions and perspectives, and they're not always going to meet in the middle. And so in much of the time, I can be wrong, and much of the time she can be wrong in differing amounts, right? So I think the most important part of that, and or at least something for me, you know, I've got quite the ego. Like, I'll be the first to admit I can be arrogant and overconfident, and it's hard to say that. I know I'm saying that to people I don't even know. You know, like my name is Alex, and I'm a recovering arrogant-aholic. So with that understanding, I think two things. I'm a big fan of Jordan Peterson. I don't know if everybody knows who that is, but he wrote 12 Rules for Life. He wrote Maps for Meaning. He's a pretty prominent behavioral psychologist. And one of the things that he talks about in his own relationship, and something that I've espoused, is when you get miffed at each other, when you're just like, oh, there's no way, she doesn't see it this way, and she's wrong, and blah, blah, blah. Like, go away and think, is there any way in the last 6 months that my stupidity has contributed to this problem right here? Is there any way? Is there some stupid thing I've done to maybe 5%, maybe only 5% of this is my fault, but is there some stupid way that I've contributed to this? And you'll get an answer. You'll get an answer pretty quick. Like, think to yourself, like, what have I done in the last 6 months that led to this, you know? and then come to your wife and say, hey, this is how I was stupid. Sorry. And she'll say, hey, you know what? This is how I was stupid. And now you're two stupid people, and maybe you can figure it out together. Like, and that, I mean, that's truth, dude. Like, we're not perfect, and we do stupid things. And in a relationship, neither one of you is without blame. And so, you know, if I get my ego hurt, I need to think about it. How did I contribute to this? How can I be better? And I need to go to my wife, and I need to be humble enough to say that to her, and to mean it. Not like, I'm sorry you thought I meant this. No, I'm sorry I said that, because that's not what I intended to get across to you. It was wrong of me, and I apologize. Like, you deserve better from me than that. You need to be able to say that. And you know, for your wife's part, she needs to be able to say the same thing. You know, not, I'm sorry you thought that I meant, no, a real, true apology of how you were a stupid human being, and we can be stupid together, you know, and that's the start. That's the start of reconciliation. And once you're humble and you can identify that in yourself and take responsibility for it, then you can do something positive together. And so I think that that's how I deal with that, and that's important, you know, is to the relationship, the binding of this relationship matters more than protecting my ego. And when you can make that a priority, then everything else kind of falls into place.
Nice, man. That's very powerful. That's actually a great finish for this wonderful interview. I have the feeling, Alex, I could be talking to you all day, and we could be live all day, and you'd just be sharing golden nuggets all over the place the whole day, just be rolling in. So I have
a feeling this won't be the last time we talk.
I hope not, man. I hope not, because I'm enjoying myself. I've been writing stuff down. I got another book. Actually, I think I got 2 new books to check out, and an extra Dr. Spinoza. I'm going to check that one out as well for my meditation. Anyway, man, you mentioned something. I really appreciate that. You said, like, okay, if there's fathers out there that are watching this and that are really struggling with getting back into shape and getting healthy and do everything, you said you'd be willing to share some time with them or share some of your knowledge with them. However, what we didn't share yet is how can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're struggling out there and you want to work on defining your bod, you can go to definingdadbod.com/trial. So definingdadbod.com/trial. I have a video explaining to you what the trial is about, how to go about it. There's a 5-minute form that I want you to fill out. Very briefly, I want you to define, for me, your health and fitness heaven and your health and fitness hell. What does that look like? We need something to run toward and something to run away from to be maximally motivated. There's a lot of neuroscience behind that. So I ask you to do that for me. Once you hit send, I'll get in contact with you. I'll spend a few minutes getting to know you over the phone or via webcam. And then I will create a personalized program for you for 1 week. And the spirit behind that is to help you understand where we're starting. And also, I do virtual coaching services. And I think everybody needs to try something like that before they know if it's going to work for them. So that's definingdadbod.com/trial. You can fill out that form there, define your health and fitness heaven and hell for me, and we'll go from there. I'll create a personalized week for you.
Nice, man. Awesome. I hope a lot of fathers out there that are watching, picking up on this because, well, first of all, you shared how much knowledge you have. And second, it's so important to be healthy. I'm enjoying it. I've been horrible at health. I've been 10, 15 kilos heavier than I am now. I say kilos, man. I'm sorry. We got a real anyway.
2.2 times kilos equals pounds.
Yeah. But anyway, it's helped me, man. It makes playing with your kids and being around them so much better and being able to carry them around. Now, I can even still carry my 5-year-old. Man, I was so bad in shape, I couldn't carry him when he was 2. So I recommend it. Sorry, Walt?
I said that's awesome. Good job, man. And for us at Defining Dad Bod, we think that our kids do what we do and not what we say. And so if you want to leave a legacy of being a healthy and fit parent, so they don't have to deal with that. They can go on and do something better than have to worry about being too heavy or their back hurting or whatever. If you want to do that, then you have to do it for yourself, or they won't do it and they'll have to go figure it out anyway.
Boom. That's great. Well, we'll end with that. Again, I appreciate you being on. Everybody that was watching this, I hope you enjoyed it just as much as I have, or even maybe more. And we will see each other. I'm actually live again in a couple of hours, man. I got a guy online called Jason. He wrote a book called Father-Daughters Conversations. So we're really looking forward to talking to him as well. I'm blessed. We talk soon. Looking forward to discussing when I can be live on your show. And man, we will definitely be in touch more because I actually got more questions.
Good. Well, hey, man, virtual fist bump across the ocean.
There you go, man. Loving it.
Love you, man. Take care. Thank you so much for having me on.
You too, man. It's been a pleasure. Take care.
Are you still meeting up with your friends now that you're a father? Kids making you stress out. You got no time for yourself to work out, read, or relax. Can you still remember the time you were hanging out with your friends, feeling energetic, happy, and confident? Spending time together and talking about your life and your crazy dreams. You're feeling alone now, don't you? No one to share your challenges with, and you're just running around from one storm into the next. Well, it's time to change this now. Join me and the Brotherhood of Fearless Fathers to speak on a weekly basis with like-minded dads to crush your challenges, face your fears with determination, be held accountable, and regain control of your life. If you want to become the hero your family needs you to be, then go to becomeafearlessfather.com/brotherhood. I'm looking forward to seeing you on one of our next calls.